They're standing at Eden Park.
And the first try!
There's McKenzie, space again, gets the pass away for Lampard. Handle pops up for Lemon. Here we go!
And we're back. Welcome along to the official New Zealand Rugby podcast. Yes, this is the connection between those that play the game, those passionate supporters. Incredibly lucky to be joined in behind the mic today by a couple of the game's greats. Jip, James Parsons, welcome along. Chief, how are?
Yeah, that's a good intro. I'll take that. I'll come back.
And Big Ben Afeaki, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Bloody good to be here.
And you've got a couple of black caps between you, and you're also, well, now heavily indebted into the Blues franchise. 100 games for not only Harbour, but 100 games for Blues as well. So maybe a quick round of applause for that as well, mate.
Great stats. Great stats.
It's great stats.
He's a statsman.
Myself, Jay Reeve, always joined here by Robert Roundy Dunn. How are you, Roundy? Well?
Yeah, good, mate. Just trying to keep you on track, trying to keep us some sort of schedule, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, statsman and all-round banter extraordinaire. Today we're going to be going through things on the rugby calendar, North Island versus South Island. Obviously, that's been announced, and that's going to be in the mixer. Also, the chat of Union versus League will be on the agenda today, and we'll have a look at Super, and I guess all around your skills, which were put on show on the weekend. The Alfie Langer grubber to the corner, which was then thrown in perfectly, and then we'll get to that try possibly a little bit later on. And yeah, I know, we'll get there, and we can cover that off. First things first, lads. North versus South. Your thoughts on it in terms of it was announced. The game is going to be on August the 29th. For those people unaware, I mean, it's a great thing. But in terms of how the teams are selected, as a player, your thoughts, Jip?
I think I can see it from both sides. I think the biggest thing is like I love the idea of Origin, the league version, in terms of wherever you're from or wherever you're born or however they do it there. I think that would be great in terms of the school. But if it's just a one-off fixture, and I think with the year we've been through to provide the best product, they've gone with the best avenue. But if it was to continue, then I think they'd have to maybe rethink it and go back to, if it's school or where you're born, rather than this situation, because then that'll create a deeper rivalry, and then that excitement. And look, some years even in Origin teams get pumped. Yeah, it's just a reality. And it will be one-sided, but then naturally over time, I'm sure it will even up. And I think I don't know how many games I've played in Origin, but it's pretty even. It's one or two games in between. So, and points scored for and against are pretty similar. So if it was going to continue and be a regular thing, I think they'd have to readjust it. But for what it is this year, I think they've gone down the right avenue to give the people the best possible product.
Biggs, do you reckon that the South will get pumped? Because I know that that's basically what Jip's saying in a nutshell, if we were to paraphrase it.
Biggs, would they? What do you think,
Mate, I think they'll battle heavily. Yeah, so I think that they'll probably give up in the end. That's probably why we'll wrap it up. But, it'd be good, like Jip said, if it keeps on going and they sort everything out correctly. But at the moment, it's hopefully they get a good crowd and that down there, and there's a bit of rivalry that starts it up. And if they do it regularly, then I think a lot more people buy into it and it'll become more of a pattern, and you'll see people get behind it, like the State of Origin and that. But
it's so uncertain, isn't it? Like we don't know what the rugby calendar is going to look like, even for the rest of this year, let alone next year. So once we get a bit more certainty in the calendar, we might be able to settle on what it looks like. And probably the best case scenario for fans, and I imagine players as well, is if we had at least one match every single year for now and for the future, then that's the time to settle in exactly what it looks like. But I think you're right. In the short term, just to have rugby in between Super Rugby and the Mitre 10 Cup is, that's a good result, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, I think also, like, with the North and South, I think some All Blacks would miss out on selection, which sort of defeats the purpose going into, preparing or giving the selectors something to choose from. So, yeah, I think it's the right decision for now, but it'd be great to create some rivalry and also give guys that might not be All Blacks opportunities for big fixtures like that. I think that would create some excitement and another purpose to play if you're outside that All Black mix. A big occasion like that in front of a big crowd would be pretty cool.
Does it not just feel, and this is me being a bit of a sadist, does this not just feel like a bit of a watered down All Blacks possibles versus probables? Because it kind of, if you were to look at how they break it all down, it does almost feel like they've got a possibles team versus a probables team when you look at how they've sort of rearranged the rules to kind of suit that. Or am I just out?
Not so much now. Not so much now. If it goes on where you're going to have people like the Barretts playing down in the south, because Brad Webber's going to be, he started his career down in Otago. So if you look at the two teams, when you balance them out, with Albi's going to be up north, but then
The
Richie
Guz.
Mwanga down, Richie Mwanga versus, whether it's Bodie. It's not bad lineups across the board when you are looking at where the lads first played their first professional or provincial game.
Yeah, and I think for me, being a bit of I pride myself on
Palmy
loyalty.
Palmy all day.
No, not Palmy. I was there for a month, mate. I'm not sure all day.
What does it say on
I
the
still want to
passport?
change my passport. No offence to Palmy, but North Shore's where I'm born and raised. Well, not born, but I wish I was. I think it's like you've got to pay respect to the team that gave you a crack first as well. So I do like it from that avenue. Before you were found or before you were an All Black in a suit, that was the province that gave you a lick. So there's an element there that I like as well, is repaying that sort of connection to that province, even if you've moved on now. It's a hard one. It's a hard one, but I personally would like the State of Origin way if it was to continue.
Yeah, and back in the day, mate, it was actually when they used to play it all the way back in the day. From my extensive research, I've seen that you just played for the province you were playing it at the time. So David Kirk played some games for Otago, but then he came back up to Auckland and played some games for Auckland. So I think what's been proposed now is a better system than that, and if it changes in the future, so be it. But we've definitely got a pretty good game of footy lined up on August the 29th with the guys who are available. So.
Speaking of, we just touched on the rugby league version, the State of Origin. That's been thrown around. The Kangaroos versus the ABs. Biggs, I know that you would love to march it off the back fence. And fancied yourself as a Haitara Cassini. Would you have been keen to be in the mixer for this? And even now, Jip, what do you think about that actually being a reality? Do you think that, you've got some big boys in your team, like you're looking after the forward pack of the Blues, Biggs, there's some big lads in there that would eat that stuff up.
Yeah, they'll eat the rugby bit up, I think, but the continuous shuttles, I think, will blow half the forwards out, so we might battle a wee bit there. But
rolling subs, you reckon, to get the boys through?
Yeah, I would definitely need rolling subs and plenty of them, but I think it's a good concept that they're trying to get across, and I think it'll attract massive crowds and be good for both codes. But at the end of the day, they'll just have to sort out how they're going to do it and what's the best way to give both codes a fair crack at it.
If you just said, just putting out a concept, if you just said it was a game of rugby league, because all Kiwis have played rugby league at lunchtime on the field against their mates, taking it off the back fence, as you say, Jay. We all have allegiances to NRL teams as young fellas. Who, mate, do you think would rip it up from a rugby perspective? Like, when you think about it, Big Nelson, who plays for the Storm, well, Patrick would have to be bigger than him, wouldn't he?
He'd be up there.
Yeah, man.
I reckon Biggsy would have been good. He's the fittest man alive. I used to beat all our bloody flankers in the fitness test. So I don't think the shuttles would be tough for some, but I think if it was just a straight league and it went 13-13, other than me old mate here, you'd probably drop the props. Yeah. And probably the hookers, and unless it was Colsey. Yeah. I'd love to see Colsey go because he loves his league. He loves scoring tries like that.
He loves just a head in the ground and a
bit of Kevin Campion and him, I reckon.
That's it, and you need that.
Yeah, you do. Especially just ask Shane Webke. He found out. But I think it would be great from that aspect just to do, because it's a simpler game. I think it would be too hard because there's versions of one half is rugby and one half is league, or it's something like that, or you just do 40 minutes of one and 40 minutes of the other. I just don't see how league players could do a line out of scrum. It's just not feasible. So the simplest option is just to do league. Yeah, I think the rugby boys might get a bit pacey, but I'd still love to see, imagine Bodie and Richie at 6 and 7, Mackenzie, taking on Tedesco. He might look small in stature, but he'd be that Billy Slater sort of style fullback,
popping up around the ruck.
I'd love to see Matt Duffy back there in the rugby side because he'd be able to actually help coach. Yeah. But Caleb Clark as well, I think he'd be a good power winger.
Yeah.
So there'd be a bit, Rico and ALB in the centres. Yeah. There's enough there to do something. And then if you're using guys like, maybe Artie Savere at lock.
Yeah.
You could put some Lucy's in the second row and then move the type 5 locks, Guzzler and Paddy into the props.
Sammy Kane, 50
and then
tackles.
Maybe a TJ Perinara or something in the 9 spot. I mean, it wouldn't be bad. They'd have to learn the game a little bit, but you've got enough skill set there to compete, I suppose.
More focus now with the new rules and how everyone's adapting to them is just to go to ground, place it, and then everyone sort of stands off. Whereas it used to be, I'm talking like maybe 10 years ago, the ball used to be alive a lot more. There used to be the bounce off the ground. Everyone was always looking for an offload, and that's almost been taken out of the game. It sort of seems that people, or is that the focus of the teams now, to sort of take it to ground and place it, and because you're not going to get as many people sort of committing to those rucks and mauls?
Well, the Chiefs probably, when they won it, changed the ruck quite a lot. I mean, you can speak to that more than me, but I mean, they were sort of had a theory of napalm. I think
so
TC called it.
we train trying to take everyone out at ruck time and
just destroy it.
Destroy the ruck and go past it and hold on players and that, but it's all kind of been ruled heavily then. Now, sorry, I think back then we got away with it a wee bit. But
so what was it? Talk us through that. What was the process behind it? Just absolutely.
So anybody around the ruck, I think the rules were back then, anyone within a metre can go.
Can get cleared out of the ruck.
So if you looked at Brody, Liam, Latz, my old mate here,
you almost get cleaned out sometimes. Yeah.
If you turned your back, for a second, you just get absolutely hammered. So I think they changed, that 2012-13, and then a lot of teams took up that. I know Tom was still sort of coaching it when he came to Harbour, and even sort of recently with the Blues. But now these new rules, it's sort of taken that because you've got to be on your feet, and you will see that style you talked about 10 years of keeping the ball alive and not so much of a collision. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm finding with the lads is because of those sort of car crash collisions aren't happening at the breakdown, you're actually not feeling that as sore as you were. There's less scrums. With these new rules, you can actually notice a difference on the body. So I suppose that's what they're trying to achieve is to make the game faster and more free-flowing and less collisions and entertaining. You'd have to say for the most part it's working because teams are kicking a bit more and we're getting a few more lineouts, less scrums, which frustrates people. We love them, absolutely live for them. It can't go. But yeah, I think there's aspects of it that they're achieving what they want to achieve, but it's a fine line.
Mate, that's a good opportunity to flick to a bit of super chat.
And the Blues win a nail-biter. Well, a match that had everything. Some brilliant attacking play, some tremendous defence, but what tension in the second half after that great comeback following the break from the Highlanders. But the Blues win it 27-24.
You're in the headlines a lot at the moment. The boys are going well. Like, you've made a great start. You were playing well before lockdown, but you've come out of lockdown in good nick. You won 3 on the bounce. In your opinion, as someone who's been around the Blues for a hell of a long time, what's working? Is there anything that's sticking out that you think, shit, that's really working for us at the moment?
There's a couple of things. There's a lot of variables in success. I actually spoke to Andy Ellis. We're doing a thing on Sky for a bit, and he actually said to me, I was like, when will you know? And he goes, you just don't actually know when it turns a corner. It doesn't feel any different. You're never not working hard. It almost feels like the biggest thing I can say is everyone in the building's aligned and working in the same direction. Rather than maybe in the past we weren't all aligned. Everyone was working really hard and almost trying too hard because you want that success, but there was not that connection. And I feel like between management, front office staff, and that's where COVID was even... I think we've come back post-COVID better as a group because we had such great connection with our front office staff, the team, the management, and it's sort of like a real family hub. And you really got purpose and a willingness to work for each other. And that's probably the biggest difference. I think we've got great coaching. I think we're led extremely well by Paddy. He's doing a great job.
Career best form, really, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's just growing from strength to strength, and he's comfortable in his own skin. And we had a great session at the start of the year around how we wanted to live and how we wanted to be, and all the sort of stuff around the pink hair. I don't think you would have seen that because we wouldn't have thought it was right. But it's what's right for us, and it works for us. And I think for guys to be able to be themselves, that's how you're going to get the best footy out of them. So there's those sorts of changes, but the biggest thing is I just feel like we're going in the right direction, together, aligned and working hard.
Kept the hair colour out of the front row, lads. That's
I'd lose mine. I don't think mine would go back. I've got about 3 haircuts left, so hence the hat.
Mate, I'm on the same concession card at the moment.
I'm going to straight Izzy Dags once I retire. I'm going to just start plugging it up.
Just talk to us about the hair, because there are some crook lids in Super at the moment. I mean, there's some crook lids across the board, but none more so than probably what's been running the Blues at the moment.
Yeah, well, Sam Knox has had his for a while. He's been running a dirty mullet.
Good Northlander.
But it all started in lockdown. I think maybe
Almost
Justin Bieber did it or something.
Yeah,
and
almost that documentary as well of Rodman.
Rodman and
So a lot of the boys have come back pretty flamboyant. So.
Yeah, and then I think there wasn't too many, but then I think Aki and Reeks jumped on it, and then Paddy, I think his partner Phoenix quite liked the pink hair that he did in lockdown, so he kept it. Like we all do, we just listen and play by the rules. He might be captain at the Blues, but he doesn't sound like he's captain at home.
Increase that percentage, just keep the high percentage plays at home and on the paddock.
But I honestly think like that's a sign of our growth in terms of an organisation. Sometimes you feel like you've got to be something you're not to please people, but it makes it easy, obviously, when results are happening.
Yeah.
But I just think, I don't know. I think it's a cool thing that is, you're not going to probably get at other clubs, and we've got to own that.
I think it'd be, like you said, it'd be nice. It's nice that you are winning, you're getting those results. If you guys are on the back foot and getting pumped, and not even saying that the Chiefs are getting pumped at the moment, they've been there or thereabouts in every game. But if you were 3 losses on the trot and you had that haircut, that'd be the first thing that people in Auckland would be asking to be changed. Well, look at that, they're spending too much time at the barber. It's amazing how the public can all of a sudden change their minds as soon as a couple of wins go. You look at that first game back at Eden Park and the number of people that turned out for that. That was like an All Black test. Is that like when the boys run out in front of that sort of crowd, are they feeling that pressure now as well, that every win gets harder with every win that you're stacking up, because sometimes when people are expecting nothing of you, it's easier to perform?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've created a lot of internal pressure. That's one thing Rangi doesn't want us. He doesn't want us motivated by things outside of our environment. We just want to be motivated to be better than the day before, and it's that willingness to compete every day has been something that he constantly refers to, and not getting complacent. So look, we're getting challenged every day by, as I said, our coaching staff, but as leaders we're challenging the group. So I think if you don't have that internal pressure, then if you're relying on things like that to motivate you, it's not always going to be there. So I think, if you look at the Crusaders, why they've had so much success is they're just consistent in terms of their prep and their emotions, not too high or low. It's just about getting the job done and the business. So I think that's the biggest thing, is it's day by day for us. I don't know if you'd agree, Biggs, but we can't get ahead of ourselves yet.
So there's still a lot of, I guess, not pressure, but just on the boys for themselves to do their jobs and perform week in, week out, and just constantly try to get better. So we want to be a great team, and we also had a big emphasis on getting the community involved in that at the start of the year, and paint the city blue, which is, you're seeing a lot more flags around, a lot more Blues jerseys, and it brings back that feeling a lot of us talked about when we were young, going to Eden Park and watching a game in the terraces, with almost packed out stadium. So the boys are definitely embracing it as well, but at the same time we set goals to do a job, and everyone's working towards those goals. So it's been pretty unreal for the whole community as well, coming out of lockdown. But a reward from them as well. I think they're enjoying coming to the games and seeing live. The boys do well live, and I guess for the boys it's a bit of a reward every week, when they get a big crowd like that. So I think a lot of the boys haven't seen that as well, the younger boys, so they're really enjoying it. When was it last sold out the Lions?
Lions game. Well, 2017, but that's the only time I've seen it as well, and I've been here nearly 12 years, 13 years, so it's it was amazing for me. I remember round one just looking at the crowd, and then obviously the standing ovation they gave, and then again the other night, with the helicopter coming over, it gives you tingles just talking about it now, and that's your utopia. You see the sea of blue at Eden Park. That's what I grew up knowing, coming to see. So and COVID's helped that, obviously, because there's a lot more interest in the game and a lot more willingness to come. But I think that's what COVID's done. It's been a good reset for everyone involved in the game to provide a better product, but also get along and enjoy the product.
Something a little bit out of the ordinary. Was it your call to be scrumming with towing your trucks around and that sort of thing? Was that something that you came up with, or is that something that the boys developed on their own? I didn't see you pulling yours, so you've not been pulling your own weight?
There's a little bit of chat through the strongman do a lot of that, so I think that's where Offa might have got it from in a conversation. But no, the boys, he just obviously likes to try to be creative, and I think his brothers are all welders and engineers, so I think he's teed it up pretty good.
I think he talked to Tom about it, and I think Biggs has been a little bit humble. He had a part to play in it, but Offa is into that strongman stuff, so he started it. But I think he's just trying to get a forward for life. So he's really gone down that third-party angle, and
It's just a smart player.
I just think it's a smart play. If I could move the car, I'd do it. But I struggle with the moving part, so it's not quite impressive.
It's beautiful. But mate, another thing with the Blues at the moment is so many things are going well, which is great. And there's some big names coming in the mix, which getting a lot of headlines like Bodie and DC. But it's the young boys that are standing out. It's pretty exciting for the area to have born and bred products coming in your team and playing really well. Caleb Clark, running the most metres so far this season.
What
Hoskins
a great
Satutu.
kid.
I mean,
Yeah,
mate. Yeah,
he's a good man.
And Satutu he is an absolute workhorse.
He is, and he's just come of age. Like, he's just, again, I think it comes back to the environment created. He's comfortable being himself. Maybe he hasn't in the past and he was a bit quiet, but now he's talking in meetings and he's, standing up and asking questions. And I think it's just been a good growth of all our young guys. But I think there's one guy in the centre of it that I think sort of goes under the radar, and he's sort of like the chief, I call him, is TJ Fahani. He's such a great leader. And a leader of men. I think he really connects well with everyone in the group, but really drives those young men to be better. And he's like our unsung hero. He doesn't get all the spotlight or the headlines, but he's the guy that always makes extra tackles. He's always the midfielder that splits and sprints to the other side of the field. Those little things that they feed off and learn off him is massive. So those young boys are going really well, but they've got some pretty strong leaders in our group that are putting them in the right direction.
I've heard massive things about him before, actually. Big part of getting the Auckland team their first title in a long time as well, which I think he was captain of, and I've heard numerous people say exactly what you've just said, that he was a massive part of getting the culture right in that team, and they had winning that competition for the first time in years, and then to hear he's carrying that on within the bigger environment, the Blues, is awesome to hear. And him alongside probably Patrick, who's having his best season to date. Geez, he can hit that guy, can't he? He
just
is.
It's a bit on fire.
That's a big carcass to run. It's a
I always say when the coaches are doing 3-team drill, I'm like, just put me with Paddy and offer, please. Put me with Paddy and offer. That gives me another year or two,
mate. But one thing
we're just before we go on, we were talking about Desi and Bodie coming. Has it kind of almost been like what they've brought to the team is probably more camera lenses and people wanting autographs? Have they added the value that you thought as a group that they would? Because I mean, obviously he's copped it. It was so good to watch Dane run through him and then pick him up and drag him into that sort of Kane's little.
I don't know what Scrafton was joining that for. It's like, mate, just focus on lineouts. Less time looking
get out
for
of
that,
there, buddy.
And Jackson guarded Masham. I think he was celebrating like, "Thank you, you left. Cheers, I got a chance." So I think Colsey had the right, but outside of that, I don't know the rest of them.
Yeah. Has it been good having those lads in the mix? Obviously, Desi's just running water at the moment, and
he's doing a lot more than that.
And what is he doing?
He's joined like as a mentor in our leadership group, and he's. I don't want to go into specifics exactly because
go into specifics.
He won't like that. He won't like that. But he's been massive just in changing our thinking, and I think going back to what you said before about how do we prepare again? How do we do it again? How do we do something special that a Blues team hasn't been able to do for a long time, and gets us thinking, poses questions 24/7 on us leaders. To make sure that we are challenging and we are competing every day. And I think it's not something that we don't do naturally, but when you've got a guy of 100 tests, everyone listens, and it's gold. So he's doing a lot of work for us behind the scenes as leaders, which is filtering down to the group. The rest of the group might not always see it, but a lot of the stuff that's making us better as leaders is through him. And I just think Bodie's been the ultimate professional in terms of the way he turned up, the way he's performing, and he's all about the team. It's not about, Bowden's come to Auckland and he's going to set things alight. It's whatever's best for the team he's doing, and that's you can see that in the way he plays. If it's on for someone else, he will put that person in a hole. If it's him who has to bust ass back, he'll do that. So those boys are offering plenty in terms of a picture of what professionalism looks like, but also what it looks like to be a true team player. And they've come from other clubs, but they've bought into the Blues culture and added to it already, which has been massive.
Speaking of being a true team player, probably no more so than yourself, last weekend really showed a skill set that you've got, the Alfie Langer into the corner.
Well, another mistake at the back. Is that going to allow the Blues back into the game? Kick ahead from Parsons, knocked down by Hunt.
tell you what, my heart was in my mouth because I actually didn't see Mitch Hunt. I think it was.
That's because you're not a first five.
Yeah, no. But the player that was in front of me was actually a big unit, and I didn't see him in the backfield, and I just saw someone coming across, and I was like, oh, it's on here. Gave it a little nudge, and then I popped round, and I was like, oh no, there's Mitch Hunt. And thankfully, it popped up. It got a nice little bounce for me, and popped up, and it worked out. But I tell you what, if it hadn't, it would have been a tough review with Leon, I'd say, especially when there's two guys free outside me. But again, I don't know why I did it, but I just saw an opportunity and did it.
A great passage of play. Then you go into the line out. Obviously still sweating bullets after a kick that could have gone pear-shaped.
Oh, yeah.
Nailed that. And then it was there for a three-peat. It was all on. It was basically you set it up and then fed it again. And then what happened?
All week.
What happened?
Tom commentary. Dalton, 7 slides over 2. We get 2 over the line because that's our system all week. And I'm coming around the corner, I can see the line, and I spin, and I'm like, yeah, beauty. And then all of a sudden, I've got these mitts ripping it off me, and I was like, I can't get into I don't know if we can't swear on here, but a fight over the ball with my own teammate, because then it's likely to spill out and we'll knock it on. So I let him have it, and you should have seen this. When I looked at him on the ground, I was like, you thief. You absolute thief. He was like, sorry, Chipper. Oh, Chipper. And Tom said to me after the game, he was like a stolen dog, like in the shed afterwards, but I'll make him buy me a few boxes of beer for that, I think.
Hey, rightly so too. That was good. Because how many times you slid across the line this season?
None. And my daughter was born. It would have been a great way to see her in. Oh, the grubber will do.
Mate, one thing that's been noticed is, a few new interpretation to the laws post-COVID, that the refs come down pretty hard, but like 60 penalties in round 1, 50 penalties in total round 2. We're down to 33 now. So the lads are adapting. They're starting to adapt to those interpretations of the laws from the refs, and we're probably seeing a faster, cleaner game because of it. Like you're saying, the old carcass is not quite as ruined at the end of the game. Probably some of that is to do with the law interpretations.
Yeah, and I suppose you can take over because the coaches have been driving us hard on training it better.
Yeah, how did you pick them up, and then how do you sort of spill that out to the players? What's the word from you?
So I think the main thing was the players getting used to it. So old habits like we talked about before, the rucks, cleaning out, coming off your feet slightly a little bit, and our sharp lines just not so sharp anymore, but still getting through the entry gate and moving bodies, but ending up on our feet. But I think that the main one is that the refs as well. They've adapted pretty well. The first couple of games they were probably on edge a bit. And making calls or whatever they saw, which was probably not always right. But at the end of the day, they're all keen to get the game flowing as well and learning. So that's probably why we see the count coming down 60, then 50, then 30. But at the end of the day, I think that all the teams that adapt fastest are probably going to do the best in the comp. So everyone wants to get it right, including the refs. And I think just the way that we train in that, the little drills we do. And also Tana reffing, he refs pretty hard out. So it's
gets me in the red.
There's probably a lot of arguments at training that aren't really heard of. But I think the way we train, we train to the new rules, and it's working out well. So as long as the boys are disciplined and they keep reminding themselves and doing their little work-ons after training and that, which the boys are great at, then I think that the rules really suit us. So
is that a result as not so many people being committed to that space that you end up having hookers in the back line grubbering for corners now? Is that something? I mean, is this
got
something
more energy, mate?
It's got more energy, right?
Does it need to be addressed?
No, the way I see it, I think the players have adjusted really well to the offside.
Yep.
And the refs have adjusted well to the breakdown. The players are trying to work hard on the breakdown, but I think the biggest thing from week 1 to week 3 was if it didn't affect the game, then they probably let some go. If it affected the game and it was blatant, then they're pulling it up. So I think both parties have come to the party, so to speak, around those sort of offside in that breakdown area.
Should climb into a little bit, probably wind the clock back a little bit.
James, what was he doing here? James Parsons on the loose! Matt Duffy! Oh, yes, Jimmy P! Celebrate that!
The way that the schedule is now placed, there is a lot more opportunity for people to be playing a bit of club footy, and we've seen that especially over the last weekend. What sort of involvement, Jip, and then to you, Biggs, do you still have with your club? Do you have much at all? Has that increased or decreased as you sort of progressed?
I suppose it's increased from a point of view of helping them out around jerseys and speaking gigs and probably create an avenue to generate some money for them. But in terms of the coaching, I used to help out a lot more probably at the senior stuff, whereas now I'm all junior really based, going and helping out the young players. And I think it's because it's a little bit easier. You can make it a little bit more simplistic. And if you go to the senior stuff, you don't want to be stepping on coaches' toes that, the systems we play at Super are different to clubs. So if you're invited in there, you'll help out, but you got to fit into their environment. Whereas when you're dealing with kids, they just want to play footy and they just want to learn a few things and have a few photos really. So those are the sort of things that I help out. I help out at Tacker. I've got a lot of mates up at East Coast Bays as well, and Tacker will probably hate hearing this, but I help them out as well because
he's always there. Seen him there every weekend.
Yeah.
He's running the Oranges.
It's but it's good fun. Like clubs where it all started, and I used to get such a buzz being at Tacker and watching Oz and Rushy and that and Lammy run around and then be ball boy for them in the afternoon. So they don't quite get those opportunities anymore. So if we can show face on a Wednesday night after school for them, it's something pretty easy because I live close to the club. But I don't ever set the market, wait for an invite. Don't just stomp on down there. Righto, kids, let's go.
Obviously, congratulations. You're a new dad. This is all exciting stuff. Biggs, well, you're a new dad as well. At this rate, you'll probably be driving a Toyota low self-esteemer at some stage, filling it absolutely up to the gunnels. It's 2 under 2?
Yeah, 2 under 2. So we had Aria, our youngest one, just before lockdown. So it's actually worked out well. So got to stay home and do everything and help out a bit. So it was good. End up being more of the 2-year-old at the moment, so the other ones are heavily relying on mum, but otherwise it's good, mate. Two kids is good, and they're both pretty chilled. 2 girls as well, so
take after dad.
Yeah. That's the other thing too, that there must be an expectation now that any spare time that you've got, because it is an all-consuming, and I suppose that you've fallen into a really great space where there's not so much overseas travel. You actually get to be around. You actually get to be a father, which a lot of professional sports people don't often get in your position. It must be nice to actually be there because you need it.
Yeah.
Now how good is sleep?
I can now see why Big Carl turns up about 5 a.m. at the HQ and jumps in the beds. Because I think he just goes, look, training's early. I'm going, and he just finishes off his sleep at training till the first meeting. But it's great to be around. I'm only a weekend, so I'm a boy in short shorts, but. It's good fun, a perfect time for me with a bye because I can help Sam get into a little bit of a routine and but they are pretty reliant on mum. You feel I'm just doing nappies and dishes and washing and just the stuff that is niggly really for Sam to do as well as breastfeeding and stuff.
But it is there's COVID's been difficult in a number of factors, but there has been some positive sides to it, like you say, giving new fathers like yourselves opportunity to be at home with your kids, but also in the weekend, Adi Severe turning out for Oriental Rongotai. Unfortunately, all the sevens has been cancelled for the year. The 2 sevens teams, the circuits are done and dusted.
Well, they've won, so
they've won, so we'll take that. They'll take the title, but it means guys like Joe Weber, Regan Ware turned out for Rangiulu down in the Bay of Plenty in the weekend. Kelly Brazier, one of the top women's players, turning out for Rangatoa. I know, was it Shooter?
Shooter was playing for Northcote on the weekend.
Yeah, played on the shore for Northcote. So while some things are a bit uncertain, this is a great opportunity for a lot of the lads. You at Takapuna, you at Harbour Maris, is it Biggie? There's a few windows to get back and help where it all started, and club rugby is just so important to the professional game, isn't it?
Yeah, look, and I hope it gets back to club rugby's the avenue.
Yep.
I got a little thing about first 15. I've got to be careful, obviously.
Yeah, but you're a thinker. You're a thinker, JP.
Can I just say to maybe tip a little bit of petrol onto that? There are a lot of kids that come out of first 15 footy with a highlights reel on YouTube expecting a massive super contract, and if they don't get it, I'm going to possibly look at other avenues and other codes. And I think it's almost changed the mindset because there is, I don't know if there's just younger and younger players getting super contracts straight out of the back of school or getting pulled into that funneling system. But I think as a result of that, you're really missing that the foundation of the game, which is what's always been there. That's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, and I feel like they you come out because it's so hyped and it's on TV and look, it's a great spectacle and it's enjoyable for sure. But I'd love to see, say if they just played the finals of 15 and then they did like a best club team in New Zealand and they had that on TV, because then it gives people the incentive to stay in the game and probably not look down on club like it's a stepping stone that you've got to skip, and if you don't skip it, you haven't made it. That's how I feel. A lot of young guys. It's like, oh yeah, club. Oh, I've got to rest my body. I want to make harbour, or I want to, like, mate, you should be wanting to play 3 games a weekend.
Yeah.
So I just think clubs, this could be a prime opportunity to get them back in the forefront of parents' mind and understanding that they've got a massive role to play to getting your son to be that All Black or whatever it is, or daughter, to be the Black Fern, because it's a pathway that I feel, outside of Big Carl, he should be the poster boy of showing it as a genuine pathway, and there should be excitement around it, not sort of, if I haven't made the academy, I'm leaving the game. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so much talent that leaves the game because they feel like there's no sort of career opportunity. But so many of us develop. Like if I had that, I wouldn't have even played for Harbour. So it's definitely something that needs to adjust.
We talked to Lenny about it as well, and there is a difference that I guess, and this is me for having never played any decent level of code, but there is something about, because I've loved smashing tins in a shed after a game with the boys, which is kind of, and not that it's all about that, but there is a certain amount of leaning in a venue such as a club room with a bunch of people surrounded by memorabilia and years and years and years of players that have leant against the same leaner and had those same conversations and sort of heckled their mates about butchering tries, or if it was at a club level, what happened to you on the weekend and Dalton had stripped you over the line,
he'd be boat racing for the night,
and that's kind of, and that is sort of something that often goes missed, that's where that camaraderie is really built, is at that club level, and I think those people that have those really strong ties to the club can carry them through and bring that culture into the bigger franchises as well.
Yeah, on a story like that, I think, like, even for me, it matures you a little bit. So I came into Taka obviously around 18, and I think we were in Harbour Academy, and I might have worn a Harbour top or something one night. I can't remember, but it fired up Marty Veal, who was 10 years older than me, and he just picked me up, spear tackled me, and he goes, "Mate, you're at Taka now. We don't need to know you're at Harbour. You wear your Taka kit." And it's just little things like that just gives you life lessons and toughens you up a little bit. And at the time I would have been spitting tacks like, but when you look back on it, those are all things that you learn from senior guys like that in that club rugby set that sort of sets you up to be a better player, but a better leader yourself when you go into other environments.
Do you notice that in the forward pack? Obviously, the tightest group in any team is the big bodies. Those guys that are kind of spread from, I guess what you've got at the moment is sort of a bit more of an Auckland centric or a bit more of a centralised setup. But if you get some of those guys from way up north, or that have joined the franchise from outside of town, or even when you get into that AB's frame, and those different sort of perspectives of things, because it's nice being in this little Auckland bubble that we all live in currently, but it is an infusion that you get from outside of that, which comes from the deep regions, that makes you go, well, this makes it feel a little bit more club.
Yeah, Tom Robinson probably brings that a little bit to the Blues. He
brings a lot.
Yeah, far north boy. So he's got that kind of what you just spoke about, that aura about him, and it is good for the boys. He often talks about running club nights and similar stuff to what club footy does, and it does engrave a little bit of a culture in the team, which previously we haven't really had. But club rugby obviously has been a big stepping stone for both me and JP's career as well, and I think that's why we have similar thoughts on how important it is going forward.
If we were just to peel it back, obviously you've gone from lacing up the boots to be a player, and now you've gone through that transition to being a part of the coaching staff. How was that for you? Was it a hard decision to make? Because I know we've known each other for years now, and that seeing you get up to that AB's level, and then to be taken out of the game, and then to work on yourself, and then to build businesses and sell businesses, and then return to the game. Did you ever think that when you hung up the boots and walked away from the game that you would be back in the capacity that you are now? Was that always the plan, or is it?
Nah, no way. So I after rugby, I got into a bit of business and then got out of that, and I was always helping out a wee bit at Harbour, just because I enjoyed it and wanted to give a little bit back. And then Tana actually called up one day, and I actually had a conversation to Jip after the phone call. I asked Jip around, what he'd think if I came in and helped out, and from someone like that, giving you feedback, saying it'd be awesome to have you in, and that gave me a little bit of confidence. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done it, because feel a bit weird, giving a guy like Jip that you've played most of your footy career with a bit of a coaching and advice and stuff, but he probably helps me out more than anyone. He probably does all the coaching, and I just sit there and watch. Yeah.
He's too humble, mate.
Yeah. What's he like as a Jip, as a former, or as a friend and as a former teammate, now as a coach? That's a special relationship.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like Biggie's got a great ability to connect with everyone and I suppose deliver a message that is sort of insulting, but it doesn't feel insulting, if you know what I mean. Like, and that's what all great coaches do, is they deliver it in a way that you almost think it's your idea.
Yeah.
By the end of the conversation, you're like, yeah, I was thinking that anyway, but you didn't. But I think that's why the boys love him, and the biggest thing as well is he's done the business. So it's similar to what I was saying with Dan before. When you've done the business and you've put your body on the line, no more than me old mate, you have that respect instantly. So what he says sort of goes. But I think he's a new age coach in the sense that you're really inclusive. He's inclusive. Like in any decisions, we talk about everything. He doesn't go, this is the way it's going to run. It's more, what do you guys think? Will this work for you guys? Will this prepare you best for Saturday? These are the reasons why I think it isn't. So it's that inclusive sort of coaching mentality, and that's why it sort of works for us as a group.
Does it feel like a little bit, because this is I've never seen anyone find his start button, but I just don't think you'd find a stop button. Once he went, like, he's a very big, gentle giant, but when he goes, you just know that it won't stop.
Yeah.
Is that the sort of the vibe that you get as well? No one really wants to push him to that edge where they find where he starts, where the curtains drop down, where he becomes his good friend Jared Hoiata.
Yeah, old hair trigger. No, I don't think you can get like that as a coach, and I don't think it's in Biggs. Like, I think there's definitely times he's frustrated, probably with me as well. You know, I've always got too much to say. But it's having that time to step away and then come back to the conversation, because, you know, that's sort of players' role is, losing the cool and that sort of stuff. So, no, I don't think so. I think, you know, you got a pretty good control. I've never seen him angry except for when he crossed the white line and you're playing with him or against him. Outside of that, he's pretty chill.
What about the other lads that obviously you've got a few old heads in the mixer as well? It must help having that on your side as well. You're getting a point across and having it backed up by the likes of Jip.
Yeah, it's awesome. So they're all pretty open to feedback and learning, and they often offer good ideas. And I guess we just got to manage them and put them all into the same one. So at least when we go into a game, we have the same plan, and it's not changing out there. Else we scratch our heads. But I think
we've done that to him a few times.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not what we trained.
I mean, these guys all got goals to make higher teams and do have really good careers, which we're pretty lucky to be able to coach. You know, the amount of talent we have in our forward pack. So with that all said, I think these boys these days are pretty professional in regards to getting feedback and moving forward and trying to adapt to opposition. And that's the thing. We could train all week for something, and the team might throw something completely different at us, which has happened a couple of times. And they're world class at adapting and working out on the field. Which at the end of the day, that's what we want, because end of the day we're not out there. We don't know what's happening in the scrums until we have a good look at it. And around the park as well. So the faster they can adapt by themselves and have a chat out there, which we try to drill into them, and they're really good at it, is the better they are as people and team players. So it's good.
We're talking about life after footy for Biggs. Jip, for you, obviously at, 33, 34 now?
33, mate.
33, looking young, and arguably, all three of us said it before this, that you're probably playing the best code of your life. Surely you're not looking anytime soon to be hanging up boots. You did mention that every contract you get is a treasured contract, and obviously with the addition of a wee one, it could be a good time to change your stance on where you see yourself and what you're thinking about playing. But the carcass is looking good. I mean, the lid's still there.
Yeah,
you don't need to be giving Izzy a bell just yet. What do you are you going to stick around? Are you going to keep pushing, or are you looking at pivoting and going into a bit more of a business role?
I've got one more year to run with the Blues. So, I don't know, if I'm honest. Like, I've always, because it hasn't always been guaranteed, my rugby career, I've always prepared really hard for life after rugby, in all sorts of avenues. So, I'd love to stay in the sport somewhat. I really enjoy the media side of it. I really enjoy the business and the commercial side of the rugby organisation as well. So around those sorts of options, if there's something that, maybe doing both, or it's almost like you have to retire to be able to have those discussions, because you can't. Yeah. You have to commit so much of yourself to, especially as a leader and a senior member in Super Rugby, and even when I go back to Harbour, you have to commit pretty much every minute of your life because that's what's expected and that's what you're paid to do. So it's a hard one, but it will be scary once you do it. But I feel, as I said, I've prepared as best as I can. I couldn't have done any more outside of footy to try but it's still going to be a challenge when it comes. When it comes, I don't know. I've got 1 year to run, and I think I'm just taking it 1 year at a time at the moment and see. I think it's more mentally. I think the body will be fine, but when the more success, the easier it will be to stay. But it certainly does take its toll mentally when you have to be that light or that person, driving standards for a long time. So it's a balancing act, and it's got to work for my family as well. And if Sam wants to get back to work and it's a better fit, then that'll play its part as well.
You both, though, you've both been lucky enough to put on the black jersey as well. Just chatted about that a little bit. How did it come about? Can you remember the time when you got the call or you got the thumbs up that you were going to be having a run around? And do you look back on it now as the career highlight? Yeah,
absolutely. I was playing for the Barbars in the UK, and I knew it was a big game. We're both good mates with Woody, and he knew I had the ability to play at that level, and he just said you need to get an opportunity at international rugby level to show that. And so, although Barbars is a exciting week, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the week from off-field stuff, but I probably took it a lot more serious than others because I knew it was my one opportunity against the Wallabies at Twickenham to actually show, I can actually play at this level. One, give myself the confidence, but two, give coaches at the higher honours confidence, and managed to have a good game. And then Nathan Harris unfortunately injured his leg against the Eagles that night, and we were sort of enjoying ourselves afterwards, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to get called up," and I was like, "Oh, mate, no chance." Carried on, and eventually got called in and managed to train well, which I think gave myself a chance. Probably got called in to hold a few tackle bags, but I knew if I trained really hard and showed that I could deliver on the training field, that they might give me a lick, and they managed to do so, and didn't expect it to be a start. And Shag actually told me after the England test in the lift, on the way back from the game, and I didn't know how to take it. I was at the time.
That's a weird way to deliver it.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, you ready to go next week?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And even though I was 26 or 27, I was nervous as hell in that environment. Yeah. So, and he was like, "Yeah, you'll be playing next week." And I was like, "Oh, don't joke with me. I'm a pretty serious customer. Is this legit or not?" And he's like, "No, it's legit." And I was so nervous. I rang my parents obviously after that, and that was the Saturday, but the team got named, I think, on the Tuesday. And I was just so nervous that and I didn't want to ask him again, So I was so nervous till the Tuesday team naming, because I told my parents, I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing," and to hopefully give them time to get across. And then when I finally got named, I was like, "Oh, thank God," get to have a chance. And it was awesome. I played about 50 minutes and just enjoyed it. And I think for me, the second test was the biggest one because I had to work really hard for that. I had to work hard for my first, but to get back in after a lot of people wrote me off was probably more satisfying. As a professional sportsman, proving people wrong is one of your biggest motivators. So that meant a lot. It was at Wellington, and all my family could be there, so that was special as well.
There's a bit of that though. Everyone always has an opinion on it, and it's generally, and that's everyone's entitled to opinion. But
I attract a lot of negative ones.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is you just how do you manage just to kind of block that out and just go, you know what? I'm a professional being selected by professionals that do a professional job. How has it got anything to do with anybody else?
I think even the best players in the world get it, and that's how I justify it to myself. It's if I see a player like a Dan Carter getting grief, it doesn't, it just makes me feel a little bit better. It's not just me. Sometimes you can get caught it's always me that's getting picked on or but everyone gets it. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like you. It's just one man's opinion, as Rushy always says. Is when he first got his All Black test, his dad said it's only one man's opinion, and when he got dropped, said the same thing. It's only one man's opinion. So, it was a lot challenging when I was younger. I see things a lot differently now. But I think the biggest thing is just reminding yourself, even the best players in the world get it. No one's safe from it.
What about you, Biggs? There's a great photo of you staring deep into the eye sockets of Kieran Reid and getting handed over a cap. Do you remember A, seeing his eyes way back in there, and B, how special was that for you?
Yeah, it's a pretty special occasion for myself and my family, really, and everyone involved that's helped me out in the past. I think it's more of when I made it, it was more like a feeling of, giving back to everyone that's put all the work into me, like my parents and my brother and all my mentors that have helped me along the way. So I only had a very brief stints on the game. I think I only played about 8 minutes or something, but the whole build-up and that was unreal. And just being with the team, JP will say the same thing, when you're in the environment, and that is pretty nerve-wracking. And when you get a shot, it's just your chance to go out there and let it all out. But it's a pretty special team to be invited to for a short period of time anyway, and it'll be highly cherished. And I guess all the teams that we've been lucky to play for have been similar. Like there's a number of friendships that I still have today, and we'll have for a long time through rugby, and that's probably the best thing about it: hanging with your mates and having a couple of tins after the game, which all goes back to what we were talking about before, the club footy, and still got really close mates from back then as well. So I guess it was all a bit of giving back to everyone, and that's how it felt for me, and I was pretty at peace with it, so it was cool.
Speaking of giving back, off to Japan you go with Samoa. How good?
That was a cool experience, eh? So a different type of team, a lot of talent in that team, and then obviously that they don't have the similar structure that the All Blacks have, and they get second place in a lot of things with regards to travel, and once you're there, even small things like Powerade and just constant getting food and that. So they obviously eat a lot as well, but they are a pretty special team to be a part of. Their culture is probably one of the best with regards to all the boys coming together from all over the world, really. So they got northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, some boys from the islands that are local, and they come together and pretty much off their own backs, and they battle away, and it's a pretty special team to be a part of, and that was an awesome experience. They did well, and a lot of players I think that have played for them will say the same thing, that it's probably one of the coolest cultures that you can be in a team. So that was an awesome experience. Japan was pretty cool as well. You went over there, eh, mate?
Oh yeah,
yes,
I was a conduit. I managed to just to report back to the New Zealand fans what it was like to be in the mixer.
Boys, thanks for joining us. Before, it's a whole another podcast which can't be aired here and will not be. But thanks for coming. Appreciate it. The boys, you're obviously doing things right at the moment. Like you've a couple of old dogs steering some new enthusiastic young fellas around, and you boys are 3 from 3, which is outstanding. And who knows, in the future, the last game of Super Rugby is Sunday the 16th. Versus the Crusaders at Eden Park. So who knows, if the stars align, that could count. That could be for the title. So if it does get that way, good luck. Good luck for the rest of the season, because you lads are going well. And even though I'm a very staunch Crusaders supporter, I think
so you can tell by how boring he is.
Yeah, mate. The roller coaster that is a Chiefs supporter, mate. But nah. Look,
I'm there for the ride.
It's a thing that's said often, but it's 100% true. When the Blues are playing well, it's better for the comp, and we've got a comp at the moment that is so even, like such a tight game against the Highlanders on the weekend. Every single Saturday or Sunday, you don't know which way the results are going, and that's how you want footy, isn't it? That's the sort of rugby you want to be playing. So good luck for the rest of the competition, and appreciate you lads coming in.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, lads. Yeah, it's